Am I doing it right? Am I taking the L right? No? No. No. Oh, whatever. Hey everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's on the Tube, where it's ActionX premiere. It's a show where I talk about TV show, whether that is reviewing episode by episode of a current TV show that's currently airing, doing season by season reviews, doing an entire complete series review if I have to, or just doing these quick impressions where I just talk about shows in a much more bite-sized approach. And these are not full reviews. They're basically just me talking about them. And yeah, so here we are. This is the last one for 2020 that I'm producing, as you can evident by the Christmas lights that are on my right. Can't believe the year's already over, and this is the last one we're doing. We're talking about Death Note. Death Note, I never, ever, ever anticipated doing, watching it, and now talking about it. It's weird how much that, if you know me personally, I'm much more of a mainstream anime person. I don't tend to go off the beaten track that much because I'm very basic. Like, I'm your typical Dragon Ball Super, My Hero Academia, Attack on Titan person. Like, I stick to the big anime, the main anime. And don't get me wrong, Death Note is still, I think, one of the most culturally relative animes in the early 2000s, which, Jesus Christ, me thinking about it, I was like a kid back then. I was like 6, 7 when this was coming out dubbed, I believe, earlier in Japan. I've heard about this show since, I want to say, I think I heard lingers of it in my earlier years. I think probably around middle school or high school, someone mentioned it to me, but I never had an interest to go and explore further on this. Then I heard about the Netflix movie, which a lot of people didn't like. The only reason I heard about it was because Willem Dafoe played Ryuk, which I thought that was cool. And yeah, I heard some podcasters I listened to talk about it, and I think I knew, like, ever since I watched Friends, for example, that I knew that any show that I would that I know about, it's on the table for me potentially to watch at some point in the near future. I never say never to a show anymore. So, and Death Note came around this year, quarantining. I won't spell specifics, but I talked to someone and she recommended this to me, and it was only like 34 episodes in the anime, so I was like, cool. If I binged an episode a day, I could probably get this done in a month, and I exactly did that. And oh man, I was enjoying it, because it's not your typical anime where I boasted about My Hero and Dragon Ball for so many years now, and the action, the pacing, and the colorfulness, and this is definitely a different feel between those two. And especially any others that I've talked about before in the past. This is a big departure for something that I'm morally interested into in the anime sphere, but it's still relevant enough in my sort of like what I like in terms of, like, this is a mystery to an extent, as well as it's kind of a thriller at parts, and this is kind of like it's kind of like a serial killer type approach to it, where it's the main villain being chased by a protagonist. And that's the weird thing about this anime, I'll give it credit for, is that but by the way, considering that this is an anime I am not like 100% tuned into, like My Hero or Dragon Ball, I will butcher names, I will forget names, I will probably omit names because I can't remember anything. So keep that in mind. I only know the main core 3 characters, a couple of side characters. That's basically all I know. But at the core of this show, this is a show that kind of questions everything you would know about a simple story, where you have your regular protagonist and your regular antagonist. That's a simple dynamic for majority of stories. You have a hero and you have a villain. In this approach, you would assume, like, based on the synopsis alone, is that Light Yagami, I believe I'm pronouncing that right. I think I am. He is our protagonist. He is the main hero. He's the cover character of the manga and of the anime. So you assume he's the hero. And then you have L, who is going against him, then you assume he's the villain. But then when you start watching the show and you start realizing there is no clear black and white type thing here. There's no good and evil. It's morally gray at times, but in terms of just the main context of a hero versus villain approach, this definitely throws that out the window, where certain aspects of both of their characters can assimilate. They're the hero, but they're also the villains. And again, if you're unaware, this is quick impressions. I do not do spoilers for at all on this, so I will not spoil a single drop of Death Note. So if you want to go into it, you can. I watched these via. How did I watch them? I forgot where I watched this series. I forgot. It's been a while. I watched this around June-ish, July-ish. Around that we were kind of like on the previous What's in the Tube season. We were already in the midst of that, so it blended my mind together. So I apologize if I don't exactly remember where the hell I watched it. I know I watched it somewhere. I don't own the DVDs, but anyway. Moving forward on that, so that's kind of what was intriguing me about the show is that in the first few episodes it takes a while. It's a slow pace. Like you're getting introduced to the characters, you're getting introduced to the world. And the way that my friend pitched me this show is that it's so like, how do I say this without spoiling it? Like, it's 34 episodes, so you assume that and here's the thing, it's a completed story. There is no cliffhanger, there's no to be continued. This is a clear set story full through and through. And considering it's an anime, I assume like, oh, there's gonna be filler. They're gonna drag it on. They're gonna keep the thriller pace of the mystery going just so we can get like a decent amount of episode length. But no, every episode has the right pacing and the right amount of steps to take. Sometimes it's a little bit too fast for my team. Maybe I would have liked them for them to enjoy a certain moment a little bit more. But sometimes they don't, and sometimes it's for a good thing and it's for a bad thing. I'm definitely surprised on how many creative leaps this show takes. And also the manga, of course. I can't forget about the manga. That it's so simple, the concept, that I can't talk about the concept. The concept of the show is that, so there are gods of death, and I'm not referring to gods of destruction like Dragon Ball. No, these are gods that basically, they have this notebook that if you write down someone's name or i.e. the way they die or stuff like that, you can actually kill them in the real world. That's basically their kind of job. I forgot if it was it's like their duty or it's just like for fun. I'm not sure what it is. But however, things get boring for them, those deities. But one deity, Ryuk, he decides to play a little game with the humans and wants to have and this is a very honest to God moral test. What if an actual human being has the power of a death? Where you know death from like Family Guy or just death in general. Death basically controls death. He controls who dies or not. And that's kind of the premise of this. What does a human do with that power? And like going through that journey with Light is the one chosen to have the notebook. How does he do it? Because he's a very intelligent high schooler who knows the ins and outs of life, but it kind of comes down to the question of like, are we as humans allowed to take someone's life? And again, not trying to spoil anything, but the way they approach this question in the show, it makes sense. At least for me, and this is not spoiling anything about Death Note, this is just me as a person. If I had that power, I would of course kill like the criminals, the rapists, the people who have killed other people, who have, done something horrendous to someone. Of course, those people don't deserve to be on this planet, and they don't deserve to be alive. But then you start coming to the question of, like, who gives me the authority to do that power? Sure, I am doing a valuable service, but am I allowed to have that power? There's a system in place. There's a criminal justice system in place. We have these laws and orders that we have to abide to. And so what gives me the right to go all the way over it and, perform those deeds, perform those actions? And that's kind of like where the show takes in the direction where Light is, like, for me, like, yeah, Light is a good person. He's doing these good things. But at the end of the day, like, are the morals there? Do we know he's not going to eventually snap and do something? Again, I'm not trying to spoil anything, but, when you have that type of power makes people mad. We have seen this before in real life. Even in current events, we're seeing that, example through and through right now. Power can make people mad. So, and that's the concern you have. Like, I don't think anyone can ever trust someone you never met before. I don't even think you can even trust anyone you even know, if you know what I mean. Like, I trust a lot of my friends. Believe me or not, I trust them. But there's a 1% chance, like, something could happen, and you have to keep that in the back of your mind. And that's how I approach things, and that's kind of how the show approached things. Like, we don't know who this sort of character is, this godlike figure that's killing all these people. But, obviously there has to be some order here, and that's where L comes into play. That kind of where the conflict begins. And I'm very surprised in the way they handled the direction of this. This is not your typical story. This is not something that I am accustomed to. This is really something different, and it's also unique. It's obviously a breath of fresh air because let's be honest, I watch a lot of shows both for this series, for the review series, as well as just me on personal free time. It's always it's the same old like hero versus villain type approach. Sometimes they give the villain an edge or give a hero a twist. Sometimes this story definitely breaks breaks the typical standard of storytelling, and that's what I really got drew into, as well as the characters. The Light versus L conflict definitely made me curious because like this is like a Sherlock and Moriarty type approach, where these two are very equal to each other. They're very similar, but of course they're different. But they are each other's matches in terms of like a competitive way. So and now the question is how it's like a game of chess. Like who's going to move where? How is this going to play out? And that's kind of how I was enjoying the process of how this this war between them was going through, and the directions they took on the in the latter half was I have to reward the author who wrote the manga. Like they were thinking something out of the box there, and I'm honestly not surprised that. Here's the thing that I talked about to this person, to my friend who recommended me this show. This Death Note did a very smart decision not to proceed forward from the finale. So when the ending for me is very much of like, we could explore further. We could continue telling more stories in this realm. But the question is, do we have to? Because I think the problem is that when you, in any TV show, like once you start going past a certain point, you start to risk the quality. And that's the thing. It's very rare to find a show that consistently performs in the quality, at least either consistently or always improving. It's always hard to find those shows. The longer you go on, the more likely you're going to take a risk or make a mistake. Because you start to develop the fan base and you start to like be really critical, and then once they eventually reach a point, it's like, no, they would never do this. This story doesn't line up with this. This is clearly, the show's ruined. Death Note did a really good job, and also the author in the manga. They did a really good. Everyone made a good job of just ending it there. I understand there's like a lot of live action media and spin-offs that expand the story. I have never watched them. I have not watched the Netflix movie, the Japan only movies. I have not watched them, nor do I have any interest in watching them. This is the story. This is what I liked, and this is where I will consistently abide by. Even if they had made like, oh, let's make a sequel series. Unless the author comes back and similar to Super and I think what else? And the Dark Side Dimension movie. If the author comes back and does that, I would be down for it, because I think they would be the only person I would trust to continue the story. But if it was anyone else, I'm like, no, not taking the risk. Nah. I mean, sure, I know like sometimes it's best to have someone else take over, because you never know what maybe the original author didn't have that idea in their head, and then someone else would. I'm considering like a Karate Kid to Cobra Kai type approach. I'm not saying that out, but I think to get back to my point, like it was a really smart decision for them to just decide we are just not continuing past this point. Like this is the end of our story. This was the end. It's open ended. Like you can predict what happens next. And again, this is a non-spoiler reviews or talk about it, so I can't talk about the ending. And all I can say is that it's weird how satisfied and disappointed I was in terms of the context of the situation in the ending. That's all I can say about it. But overall, I really enjoyed the series through and through. The Light L conflict was definitely the highlight over through this. And just seeing the dynamic between Light and Ryuk, and what Light has to do with the Death Note in certain situations as the series progresses. So there are some moments where it's like, even I got mind fucked. It's like, wow, they did that, or I'm gonna say no more, because you should go watch it. I think, yeah, Death Note. My God, such a recommendation. I mean, it's not in my top 10 shows. It's not up there, but I think it's a very unique piece of anime and a good read on manga, because that's what my friend told me. So go check it out. I highly recommend Death Note. It's only 34 episodes. It's an easy binge. You can easily get that done in like a week, or do what I did, just within 34 days, and you get that done. So there you go. Yeah, nothing more to say there. I really enjoyed Death Note. It was definitely a good time, a good show to watch during quarantine. Yeah, sorry if I didn't really explain that much. I don't want to talk about more because this is just such an interesting, fascinating story to tell and talk about. That hopefully one day I'll do a spoiler review with someone, with maybe that friend, if they're willing to come on and do the show with me. It would be fun to talk about that. In terms of a full spoiler review, but who knows what the future may hold? Who knows? But I think that's going to do it for me, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been What's on the Two from ActionX. If you want to know what we're doing overall, What's on the Two, besides these quick impressions, we are currently at the very end of our year. So right now we are about to release, this coming Tuesday, finally, we're about to release our Arrow Season 4 review, part of our every Arrow season reviewed. Sadly, because of timing and the current situation, we are opting to save the second half of our review series for later in 2021. So, Season 4 review will be up this Tuesday. That will be it for the year for Arrow. And then next week, when is Christmas? I think Christmas is on Friday. So, next week on Wednesday, I believe. I don't know if I'm gonna get that right. But then we also do every Doctor Who series reviewed. I do that. Oh, I do the Arrow stuff with Savasala, my co-host, and that, and I do Doctor Who with George Papandreou. So that we're doing the end of time review, and also the Four Knocks. That will be uploaded on December 23rd. And then after that, we are done for the year. So, and then we have a lot of cool stuff announced for next year. I can't talk about that, but if you're very intrigued to hear that, come back on January 2nd. We'll have a whole update video on that for then. But until then, again, if you enjoy quick impressions or you enjoyed me talk about Death Note, well, Death Note, I don't think we're going to talk about that anytime soon. But if you are a fan of me and you were just curious and me talking about more shows, then you can subscribe to ActionX on YouTube.com for more What's in the Two. Ring the bell for notification when our next video is live. Like, favorite, share this review if you want to support us. It does really help us out in the long run. Gets us out there to new people to see our product, as well as follow us on social media to be up to date on videos and any updates we have. And yeah, I don't have a really I don't know what else to say, but go watch Death Note. Or if you have watched Death Note, let me know in the comments below. Well, let's talk about it for a bit. I'm always open to conversation. But until then, stay safe out there, be good to each other, have a happy holidays, and peace out.